Good afternoon. I'm going to call the August 15th, 2024 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals to order. First order of business is a request. Does the staff have confirmation that the Kansas Open Meetings Act required notice has been properly provided?
Yes, I can confirm that the packet was posted and the required notice was provided.
Very good, thank you. And at this time we'll have roll call.
I'll call roll. Board Member Waters.
Here.
Board Member Trove.
Here.
Board Member Creer.
Here.
Board Member May.
Here.
Board Member Owens. Board Member Dorsweiler. Hear us? Okay. And Chair Hardy.
Here.
That brings us to having 6 out of our 7 appointed members. That constitutes a quorum. We provided public notice of today's meeting, so the chair can proceed with today's agenda.
Very good, thank you. First item of business, or the second item of business, I should say, is the approval of minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from our last meeting, which was several months ago now? Are there any changes or corrections? Then the minutes will be filed as presented. Next order is new business.
Just to follow the procedure, we do need a motion and a second.
Okay, let's do it. I'm sorry.
approve those.
It's been 4 months.
Yeah, you're out of practice.
I move that we accept the minutes as printed.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Justin,
All right, they are properly done now.
Now they're properly approved and they've been signed by the chair, so that takes care of that housekeeping item.
Very good. Under new business, we have a public hearing on a quasi-judicial matter. It's application number V24-4 filed by Jeff Gillum, architect, on behalf of Jeff and Mary Thompson. Mr. Andrew.
Yeah, so this request is coming to you as a request for a maximum garage size variance, and the proposal is to construct a new 30 by 45 foot, what we're referring to as a detached garage, that if you look at the plans you'll note is in fact connected to the house, but just want to emphasize that the building code and the zoning code definition of an attached building means one that shares a common wall with the house. And so in this case there's a breezeway that does physically connect the two, and you are free as board members to look at this as an attached garage, but the way the code is defined, it would be considered a detached building. And so the backstory on that is that there was a case probably bordering on close to 20 years ago where this board reviewed a request to build a 1,500 square foot garage on a lot that had a house that was 700 square feet. And so this board reviewed it, decided the building was all out of proportion to the neighborhood and to the house on the lot, and denied the request. The purchase that owned the lot then devised a plan and constructed about a 14 or 15 foot breezeway running from the small house over to this building, and then proceeded to build a 1,500 square foot garage, which was considered to be attached. And so the two, of course, after it was built, board members inquired of staff how it got built when the variance had been denied, and so we explained that, and so this board and the city commission decided that loophole should be closed. And so 2 things were adopted. One, clarifying that attached meant sharing a common wall, and then secondly, the code now does not allow any garage attached or detached that's bigger than the house on the lot. And so I think the important thing to look at in terms of this application is that if you have a detached garage, the size limit on a standard lot is 24 by 32 or 770 square feet. If it's attached to the house, then the only limitation is that the garage cannot be bigger than the house. And so we are here this afternoon because myself as zoning administrator has classified this as a detached garage. And so we're looking out at Highland Meadows Hamlet, which was a subdivision that was conceived and developed by Frank Norton, a local owner and developer. And he platted this property back in 1995 and annexed it into the city. At the time, it was kind of an island annexation and an island of itself, but the city has grown that way from Ohio and also grown along Markley Road, so it is now less isolated. But the activity in the subdivision dates from that time. And so the dwelling that we're discussing here was built on this lot by the current owners back in 2002, and a permit was issued to construct a 2-story home with a 3-car attached garage and an unfinished basement. And so this dwelling has a footprint of a little over 3,500 square feet, and it was built on Lot 4, Block 1, and that lot by itself is a little over an acre in size. There was, during construction of the home, the addition of an 18-foot by 36-foot in-ground pool that was added to the property, and then the only new construction since that time has been the addition of a rear covered deck. And so this is part of a planned development district, and the reason it's a planned development district is because Highland Meadows Hamlet has a homeowners association and private streets, and the homeowners association owns and maintains those streets. And so we've noted in our report that there's no limit on the size of an attached garage except it can't exceed the size of the house it serves, but it has to share a common wall with the house. And so when reviewing these plans, the zoning administrator determined that this was a detached garage, and so we informed the property owner's architect that we weren't able to issue a building permit for the garage as proposed because it exceeds the size limit for an R district lot. And so this variance application has been filed to approve a garage size variance for this property to allow the garage to be constructed as proposed. And so you have in your packet a set of plans depicting the proposed garage. The item we have on the screen, the highlighted portion is yellow, is the new construction, which consists of a breezeway extending out from the north of the house over to a new garage. What you can't see on this picture is the adjoining lot to the northeast, which has been purchased by the property owners, and then directly to the north of that is Magnolia Road. And so, and one of the justifications for the variance is the need for additional weather protected storage, and part of that is to make up for the fact that a portion of the existing garage is being converted to expanded kitchen and laundry space. And so the applicants, looking at the overall property that they have to work with, believe that the 24 by 32 limitation would be overly restrictive based on the size of their lot, and they have acquired the adjoining lot to create even more building area. And so we've provided you with some definitions just so you can see how those relate to the case at hand. And so a residential garage is a detached accessory building enclosed on 3 sides And it says an attached garage must share a common wall with the residents it served. So the applicant's property in this case consists of not only Lot 4, but Lot 3 adjoining it, and combining those two together creates a zoning lot that's 3.2 acres in size. And so due to the unique lot size, the proposed garage, if built combined with the house, would still cover less than 4% of the building lot. And the maximum allowed in the R district is 30%. And so we're not even approaching that. The other thing is that the garage, the way it's located, would not really be visible from any other adjacent resident. And so as board members, you're to look at any building size variances being related to unique circumstances of the applicant's lot that aren't shared by other similar lots. And so one thing we would point out is if you take this lot and you compare it to a typical subdivision that is made up of R-zone lots, and there's some like up in Magnolia Hills Estates, which is on the east side of Markley Road, there are R-zone lots in there that don't even come close to meeting this size, and the density pattern is much higher than here. And so there are a number of unique conditions that differentiate this from a typical residential subdivision lot. And so it's unusually large to start with. It's been combined with the lot next door to comprise 3.2 acres. It backs up to a heavily traveled street. And if you look at the plat, or Dustin, if you want to go to an aerial photo, we can explain that there is dedicated open space that's owned by the Owners Association that is to the west of this, and also a strip coming through here for a drainage channel. And so it's this property has got common open space on two sides. And then there's an elevation change between Magnolia Road and this site. And so if you look at all those things combined, this lot is very isolated, and it's very separated from neighbors compared to lots in a typical residential subdivision. And so the applicants point out that they're bordered by Magnolia Road on the north. There's a vacant lot on the east. They've got undeveloped open space, and the garage will be located on the Magnolia Road side, so it's not going to be visible from any other lot in the subdivision. And then if you envision a typical subdivision with rows of houses facing the street, the minimum side yard setback is 7.5 feet, and all of the setbacks from this proposed garage would exceed 100 feet. And so it's not even comparable in terms of the setback. And so we noted as a staff that this appears to us that this addition would blend in with the existing improvements on the lot and would be proportional in size with the dwelling that's already there. And if you drive out and look at the site, it's so isolated, it's almost on an island. And so the garage, if as built, should not be noticeable or have any impact on the neighboring properties. And so one of the things in line of hardship is that the applicant has pointed out that their lot is 10 times larger than a standard R-zone lot, maybe even more than 10 times that. And the lot coverage would only be 3.4% if their plans are approved. And so if they are limited to the standard 24 by 32 dimension, their functionality of their garage would be severely reduced, and they would also not be able to use it to support storage and functions in support of their pool. And so the 30 by 40 foot dimensions are needed to combine the functions of garage and pool house. And so the hardship is that the 770 square foot limitation doesn't really allow the applicants to have a space that's proportional in size to their lot or allow them to fully utilize their lot. And so as we normally do, we'd want to hear some additional comments from the applicant about what their personal hardship would be if features of this proposed garage had to be eliminated or it was reduced in size in some way. We've not identified any potential impacts on public health, safety, or welfare, again, because this is so isolated. It not only doesn't affect the neighbors, but it would not affect the public. One thing we look at with garages and garage additions and sizes is what effect that runoff might have on neighboring properties and neighbors. There is no neighbors here to be worried about in terms of runoff. And then the other thing is that as a board, you shouldn't approve variances that would undermine the very purpose for which limitations are adopted. And so the reason that we have garage size limits is to make sure that garages are properly proportioned with the lot they're on and with the house they serve, that they don't result in excessive lot coverage, and just to make sure that garages aren't built in a way that would make the neighborhood lose its residential character. And so one of the concerns that sometimes crops up is that there's been temptations, and planning staff is working on one now where this board approved a garage size variance, and the original owners have sold the home, and now the garage, neighbors are complaining, is being used for commercial purposes. So one of the purposes of looking at a garage and how it's designed and to be used would be whether there's any possibility that it might be a temptation to use it for commercial purposes in the future. That is absolutely not the case here. So the other thing I would point out is that Salina does have a zoning district identified as rural suburban, and it applies to subdivisions where the minimum lot size is over 1 acre for estate-sized lots and homes. And so there are, I believe there are some lots on Upper Mill Heights that are zoned RS because they exceed 1 acre in size, and in those districts there's a 1,200 square foot limit instead of 770. So even though this even exceeds 1,200 square feet, if you look at what the intent was, which is to make garages proportional to lot size, staff believes that the proposed construction is proportionate with the lot size and the character and conditions on the applicant's lot. If you look at it, it's closer to rural suburban than it is to a typical residential subdivision. So the architect has submitted elevation drawings of the proposed garage. Architecturally, it appears to be an extension of the house design. The roof slope and design appears to be compatible. The question for the board is whether a garage addition of this size is too much building for the size of the lot or the size of the house or size of the surrounding neighborhood. Staff does not believe that it is, and there's not really any question about the garage being residential in purpose or appearance. And so if after any additional comments from the applicants about the hardship that would result if this had to be smaller than proposed, and you wish to act favorably on this request, staff has identified 2 suggested conditions on page 9 of the report. And one is that the construction of the addition conform to the plans presented to you this afternoon, and that the roof height and pitch of the garage not exceed the roof height and roof pitch of the existing dwelling on the lot. And from the plans we've reviewed, that does not appear to be the case. So you could approve this as requested. You could approve a lesser variance than requested. In other words, a garage footprint smaller than 30 by 45. You could postpone action if you think you need additional information to reach a decision, or you could deny the request if you don't think the findings can be made to support the size variance in this case. So with that, we'd be happy to go back to any other slides or aerial photos you would want to review, or we can answer any questions you have. If not, we'd hear from the applicant's architect or from the owners themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew. Are there any questions for staff at this time?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Dustin, could you pull up the aerial? On the 2 lots, I'm just curious, I know it's a total of 3.2 acres. What's the split on both of them, roughly? Like,
Well, I believe the one that the house sits on now is 1.1
1.1,
acres.
okay.
You've got, I don't know, the survey's in your packet, but the numbers are small to
That's
read.
okay.
If you have
That's-
the survey, you can put up on the screen, Dustin.
That's fine, Dean.
So you can see right, if Dustin keep blowing it up,
Okay.
The north is 2.08.
2,
So-
so roughly 1 and 2.
yeah,
Okay.
so we took this is 1.1 acres existing, and the 2.8, they're combined into adjoining lots that have been combined together. So taking the 2 together as a single residential site, it is a little over 3 acres.
Okay. What is on the east property that would be from the garage? If you could go back to the aerial, that lot to the right, that is what,
This is a vacant building lot that is available to build on.
okay,
This is owned by the current owners, the Thompsons, so they own this. This
Okay.
is available for sale. Then this right here is a corridor for drainage that comes down across Magnolia Road and angles through here and then goes over to the river. And so
Okay.
this is common area, so there'll never be a house here.
right,
But this lot here could in the future have a home on it.
okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions?
To show kind of the context of the proposed garage in relationship to the lot lines, the survey shows the existing boundary of lot 4 and 3, and it's kind of just right next to the boundary. So to give you an idea of how much of the land they're using, so virtually all of the 2.08 acres is being unused to the north. So it's
Okay.
that gives you an idea of the lot coverage that we're dealing with.
Okay, thank you, Dustin.
Dustin, just clarification, that's not the current one.
This is not.
Yeah, the one in the packet's current. See, there is another one, just to make sure everybody sees that correctly. Because it does overlap the property line just a little bit, maybe 1.5 feet. Yeah.
So this is a better example.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification, Jeff.
Okay, so, Mr. Andrew, would you, from your comments, it might indicate that Highland Meadows might not have the appropriate zoning attached to it?
Well, not back when Mr. Norton developed this. The thing about the RS zoning is appropriate if every single lot in the subdivision is over 1 acre, and not every single lot in Highland Meadows Hamlet exceeds 1 acre in size. So when he looked at the choices, he chose the R district, which has an 8,500 square foot minimum. We were just pointing out the difference between an 8,500 square foot minimum lot size and the fact that this lot is over an acre in size. What we were trying to point to is that, it actually was a case, it was not solely related to size, but there was a attached porch to it. But we had a case that came before this board a couple years ago that involved a garage variance on Upper Mill Heights, and the owner of that property could build a garage by right that was 1,200 square feet. And so what I was trying to point out was our zoning code is designed to try to keep the garage size proportional to the lot and to the house. And since the RS district is designed for 1 acre lots, it allows a 1,200 square foot garage size. So I guess what we're trying to point out is that not that this is necessarily miszoned, but that you can take that into account, that the intent was to allow for larger garages on lots that exceed 1 acre.
Mm-hmm. And on the plans, the enclosed walkway that is there, that does not constitute a common wall?
It does not constitute a common wall. An attached garage would have a rated firewall that would be separate the garage, and they would be attached directly, so you would walk out of your house into your garage. If you want to talk about firewalls, I'll let you defer to Mr. May or Mr. Gillum to talk about fire separation.
Any other questions at this time?
I have one. We're worried about that this in the future might be commercial use or something like that. But with their homeowners association out that, would that not help block that in itself?
It would, and I forgot to note that you have at your places there that the Architectural Review Committee for Highland Meadows Hamlet has reviewed these plans and have approved them. And so we got that after the packet went out, but I put that at your places. But yes, any subdivision that has covenants, any subdivision that has an active homeowners association, that's very unlikely to occur. And we pointed it out that it is unlikely to occur here, but we've simply pointed out that there have been cases where owner A has a need, they make a request, they plan to use the garage because of certain circumstances that relate to them, they sell the property, somebody comes in and has a different view of how that garage could be used. And so, as I noted, we had a complaint that a garage that was oversized and was approved through a variance was being used for auto repair and not for residential purposes. And so that's just a side effect, and it's on a case-by-case, judgment-by-judgment basis, and the likelihood of that here is near zero. But it's just a factor to take into consideration.
Very good. Any other questions? Is the applicant present? Can state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, Jeff Gillum, 730 North 9th Street with Jones Gillum Renz Architects. One of the things I'll address first is I think Dean had mentioned that he wanted some clarification on the hardship. And I think Jeff and Mary have done a tremendous job on pre-planning this, knowing that they need the additional lot. Although their lot has plenty of size, the one thing that was not mentioned here is we do have a significant grade elevation as it drops down a full story in the back. And so to try and keep the garage on the main level, it made sense to go more of the northeast direction as opposed to, directly in the back of the building, if you will, which is almost a full lot. And that's where the swimming pool is on the plan. Dustin, could you pull up the floor plan? I'm going to step away from the mic just real quick. As you can see on the plan, The primary garage is not oversized. It is a normal residential size garage. It's just 2 cars. The bulk of this is more of a pool house type facility where we've got a sitting area, a small kitchenette, a full restroom, and Jeff's looking at doing a golf simulator there. We studied this, as you all know, with the cost of construction these days, it makes sense for them to be very conservative on the size, which they have been. So we don't think this is over the top by any means. And to reduce this means they would be cutting out some of the needs that they feel they'd like to have. So that's one of the hardships of, like Dean mentioned, do we cut it down? The other thing on the 2-car garage, it is 750 square feet if you just look at the garage itself. Now, I realize Dean's looking at it as a detached, which means you're looking at the whole facility, but you don't have like a big commercial garage there. It's under the 770 square foot that's allowed, but because we've got the additional square footage on there with the bathroom and the sitting area and the kitchenette, that's what kicks us up over the square footage. If the garage wasn't there, as Dean mentioned, you know, this could be 5 times larger, up to 10 times larger. We could do a full 30% lot coverage. And as mentioned, with this approval, we're not even at 4%. So to me, that's a huge effort in terms of the Thompsons to purchase the lot, take care of the neighborhood, make sure that they're not squeezing something in, they're not creating an eyesore, that they're doing what's right for the overall development. Another point to consideration is, as Dean mentioned, with all the lot distances and clearances, they truly are separated from the rest of the neighborhood. And I just confirmed with Jeff, can you pull up that plat again, Dustin? The lot that was questioned by Carla has never been purchased, so that is still owned by the developer. So our guess is that it's either too small or it's not desirable because it is right on Magnolia, that, you know, chances are it may never be sold. I don't know. But right now, yeah, it's, again, our garage is right on the property line, as you can see. So even from a sight line, it would be difficult, you know, to create any kind of eyesore or visual impact to a potential future owner. Just look through my notes here and see if I've missed anything. And Dean, you didn't really go over your summarization of findings. Are you going to do that later, or?
Well, what we indicated in our report is that staff believes the standards for granting a variance can be met in this case, and we have the 2 conditions, but attached to the report is findings that we believe support approval. And so part of the reason for doing that is if there is a motion to approve the request, that you, as board members, can simply refer to those findings that are attached to the report, so you don't have to generate your own. But this, from our standpoint, certainly meets the uniqueness test. There's no question about adverse effect on neighbors because it is so distant. And I think we pointed out that we think that the size of the garage is proportionate to the size of the home and the size of the lot. And so if you approve this, you're not undermining any purpose or intent of having a garage size limit in this case.
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure that was addressed, because those are the 5 major bullet points to getting a variance, which staff has supported and said, we comply, we meet. So with that, we ask for your favorable vote to approve the variance. Any questions for me?
Any questions for the applicant?
I got one. Dean was talking about, or maybe I read it in here, something about another entrance into that area. Now, I'm assuming that's not going to come through their property. It'll come through another part.
We're not proposing another entrance.
Okay. If you want to go back to the aerial photo, Dustin. what was discussed with Mr. Norton back in the day, and he simply hasn't done that. You'll have to zoom out a little, Dustin, but there is some property to the east over here, and this is the Norton family home here, but there was discussion of connections. If you see St. Andrew's Way right here, that has the ability to be extended, and there was a possibility of
Okay.
bringing that out here to have, expanding this to the east and having that second connection to Magnolia Road. And so this configuration was as far as the planning and city commission were willing to go with the single entrance into the subdivision. But the planning was available for this street. There's no cul-de-sac here. This street could come around and extend out if ever this developed to the east.
All right, thank you. Now, is it my understanding that they own both lots, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Outright, and there's nobody else in it, it's just them.
Right, and there's some language in your report from Dean, and I don't know, Dean, if you've got the final deeds, but Jeff did get that resolved. The only thing we did that Dean requested is the lots were actually legally named in different names. That's been corrected. They are both now, I believe, under the Jeff Mary Trust. So so they're both lots are legally named the same.
All right, thank you.
You bet, thank you.
All right, we'll bring the question back to the board for discussion and possible action.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the application for V24-4.
We have a motion to accept the application. Is there a second?
Would that include the two conditions on page 9?
Mr. Creer? Yeah.
Guess I forgot those.
The staff recommendations.
Yes,
1 and 2.
thank you.
So the motion would include the
It would
two
include
staff
that.
recommendations.
Second,
Okay,
yes.
very good.
I second it.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and the application is approved. Any other unfinished business?
We do not have anything. We have, just want to inform you, this is August. Terms roll over at the end of August, and so we will have a board training and annual meeting at your September meeting. I want to say it's going to be on the 19th of September, and we will meet on that date, and we also have an application that's been filed for that. So we'll have board orientation and training. This board's our only board that doesn't have any new members, and but we'll still have our training. We'll have election of officers, our annual business meeting, and then we do have an application filed for your consideration at that meeting.
Okay, anything in terms of public forum?
We do not have anyone online or in the room from the public, with the exception of the applicant.
Very good, thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at this point.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.